down on the convertible, that's kind of nuts, but that's almost a funny kind of nuts. But what this guy is doing is really taking low.
In Los Angeles, car chases
in real life are kind of boring. I mean, what will happen 90% of the time? Some criminal runs away in his Fiat Multipla, maybe rams some people and then gives up and runs away? That is how car chases normally end. And well, in addition to the chases being boring, they aren't even that fun to watch by themselves. Like most people, I don't like witnessing blood sports live. Actually, I stay willfully ignorant in terms of news. But something in me is fascinated with carnage and destruction. Thank God video games exist. There is a game for every psychotic need I have. Grand Theft Auto 4 covers the running people over aspect, or popping caps in gangsters' asses. But my god, is that game depressing. Well, then there's Hitman 2, which, well, I think it is better for me not to elaborate. I do not want to get put on any government watch list. Yet, one game which actually is a childhood game for me was exceptionally cathartic and, incredibly enough, PEGI 12. Pursuit Force is a PSP exclusive game. The main premise is similar to the German TV show Alarm für Cobra 11. Essentially, the player is part of a police task force which specializes in chasing down criminals on highways. Sure, we have highway cop forces all around the world, some of these being filled with hard asses. For instance, America's state troopers, who have no patience whatsoever in regards to bullshit. Yet the Pursuit Force is not bound to reality. Instead, it depicts a far more exciting, yet less ethically acceptable, representation of highway police. Instead of pulling people over and asking for ID, the Pursuit Force is much more dedicated in terms of bringing people to justice. Police brutality reached an all-new meaning for me when I first played this game. Pursuit Force cops jump from vehicle to vehicle and shoot gangsters at point-blank range in the face. They also constantly hijack cars from both criminals and civilians. They not only chase and ram cars, but they also use excessive firepower, which could easily affect civilians on the highway as well. When playing this game, you should definitely switch your brain off. Pursuit Force is unique not only for its setting, but also for its tone. The game is set in a Saturday morning cartoon-esque world and is filled with over-the-top villains. There's no place for innocent until proven guilty here. This game represents a conflict between good and evil, and you are the good guy. Surprisingly, your boss is disturbingly morally ambiguous and even suggests to you to straight up kill perpetrators, playing the judge, jury, and executioner. But again, do I need to remind you that this is just a video game? Gameplay in Pursuit Force mostly consists of chasing gangsters in cars. You can shoot at other cars or even jump from your car to the next to hijack it. To hijack a car, you need to kill everyone in it first for you to ultimately take control of the steering wheel. But do not expect gangsters to just pull over and hand over their vehicles. They will retaliate and try to shake you off their rides. You can easily lose balance, so you have to be careful not to fall off a vehicle. In addition to that, you can dodge enemy fire when hijacking a car as well. Once the criminals are dealt with, you gain control of the car and are awarded a more powerful firearm. The player is constantly awarded for destroying enemy cars and eliminating gangsters with the filling of the justice meter. Once it is full, you can keep it charged so you can hijack a car in slow motion using the Justice Shot ability, enabling you to shoot some person before landing, or you can expend it and regain your and your car's health. Other than that, the game features ground combat sequences, in which you can decide to kill or arrest perps, and helicopter Gatling gun scenes, which are somewhat tricky to play with the frankly terrible analog stick the PSP possesses. Actually, this game is really hard, but not only for the controls. As a kid, a friend of mine showed me Pursuit Force. We both had PSPs, so we constantly switched UMDs to play each other's games. My favorite PSP games at the time must have been Shrek 3, which is a surprisingly good game, GTA Vice City Stories, and Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. Pursuit Force was different. I never was able to get that far into the game. It simply was too hard for me to beat. Yet, I always remembered the game for its kick-ass action and unprecedented level of polish, which was not a commodity for handheld game experiences. After over 10 years of not playing this game, I finally got around to it again. but I just couldn't play this title on an actual PSP. The worst thing about PSP games is the PSP itself. It's not being big enough to comfortably hold at times, it's only possessing one analog stick, making quite a few first and third person shooters awkward to play, and earlier models possessing horrible screens which showcase an insane amount of ghosting images are only some of the reasons as for why the PSP can be a somewhat dated experience. If the game uses both the analog stick and the D-pad, you are fucked. Have fun playing your game with the claw hand. Luckily, Pursuit Force can be played while only using the analog stick. Yet, I decided to play through the game on PPSSPP, an emulator for the PSP, which I normally use to play PSP games on my computer. Playing any PSP game with an adequate controller and upscaled graphics is a thing of beauty, and I can also really recommend it for this title as well. In Pursuit Force, the government sees an incredible spike in violent crime. Multiple gangs roam the streets. Those gangs being the Capelli Family, the Warlords, the Convicts, the Vixens, and the Killer 66. Every gang is filled with funny caricatures of violent criminals and incredibly over-the-top villains. They also trash talk all throughout the game. Some of my favorite lines all come from the Capelli Family.
You're gonna get it, you lousy snitch!
The game's progression is sort of non-linear. Instead of playing through the missions linearly, the player can choose which mission to conduct first. In most cases, you play through the majority of the campaign, and then you have to return to it later after starting other campaigns to gather a new rank. There is some character progression, with skill improvements and the addition of the Robocop gun later on in the game, yet the basic skill set of the main character never changes.
Your move, creep.
The Capelli Family helps us get into the game. It is the first accessible campaign and mostly comes across as a campaign-wide tutorial. The Capellis are a stereotypical Italian crime family filled with dimwits and smart guys who are highly quotable. It already shows that some missions are actually rather long. Many missions in the game consist of multiple different parts, all of which offer checkpoints. Some missions even feature combat on speedboats instead of road vehicles. The Capellis also show us how the general progression of the campaign functions. At some point, we face a mid-campaign boss, kill him, and then move on to the final boss that is the kingpin of any given gang. In the case of the Capelli family, we first get rid of the hitman Deadeye, and then we manage to arrest the Don himself. The next gang is different. The Warlords are a conglomerate of ex-military soldiers who banded together to conduct organized crime. Warlords' missions are much more ruthless and incorporate fresh ideas into mission structures. Yet, the game is not showing its true colors yet. This campaign features my favorite mission in the game, an homage to Speed, in which you hijack a bus that you must drive at over 100 miles per hour consistently for it to not blow up. In this campaign, we need to get rid of Lieutenant Davies, and then move on to the head of operation, Warlord General. This gang is self-explanatory. A buttload of criminals escaped prison, and now you have to deal with them. At this point, the game starts becoming a bit repetitive. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay is a lot of fun, but after hours of playing, it does get a bit stale. The gameplay only consists of driving, jumping, shooting on ground, shooting in the air, and occasionally driving a boat. Sure, there are different mission types, but they mostly play the same. Anyways, now enemies try hijacking you for a change. Overall, the difficulty of some missions has been upped significantly. This time, we need to dispose of Billy Wilde, who is a far more frustrating lieutenant to deal with. Since this is a helicopter mission, Billy jumps from car to car too, and you are guaranteed to hit civilians throughout the mission. The final boss, Hardballs, also offers a first taste of how bullshit this game can be. You better keep that itchy trigger finger, since you won't be able to kill the boss in time if you slack off too much. The last two factions are very different in design but also equally bullshit. The Vixens are a gang of all-female thieves who go around the world stealing valuable relics. Meanwhile, the Killer 66 are a Yakuza-type gang that mainly do illegal street races and sell drugs. What is so bad about those two campaigns? Both of these campaigns feature incredibly frustrating boss fights and penultimate levels. In the case for the Vixens, the campaign already is artificially more difficult for the increased damage the thieves possess. But even worse, the penultimate mission expects you to eliminate 16 perps in time before they reach their destination. This is a detail I did not mention before, but this game is constantly on an invisible timer. On any mission you have a certain distance of miles to cover, which is displayed on the minimap. If the enemies, or just one of them, pass the goal, you lost the mission automatically. The penultimate mission of the Vixens is so incredibly hard that I had to optimize it all the way through. I had to get every curve down perfectly in the beginning, then hijack the bike ASAP, then hijack a car that I had to eliminate after. After that, I decided to gun down the non-target perps, and then later jumped on the next target. I optimized this mission to the point where I knew exactly when to use the Justice Meter and when I should use the Justice Shot ability to quickly kill foes. The problem with this mission is that there are way too many perps to deal with in a relatively short time. On top of that, the perps can be spread out far and wide, making the mission even harder. And boarding a car is even deadlier in this mission, since the Vixens, as before mentioned, have an insane damage output. This mission cost me about 1.5 or 2 hours of grinding. It wasn't fun. Nothing about this mission felt fair. Moving on to the boss fight, in which we kill Whiplash. Fuck this boss fight. I hate this boss fight. Whiplash is another one of those bosses that leaps from car to car. The basic gist of this boss is that you have to destroy the car she is on, slowly letting her health bar dwindle away in the process. At some point she boards a helicopter, and the rest of the boss fight is more straightforward. Only problem is that the mission is easily bugged. Normally, when the chopper first appears, Whiplash is supposed to immediately board it. Instead, what happened rather frequently is that she stood on the burning car forever and only boarded the chopper 3/4 into the mission. Another 40 minutes to an hour wasted on a mission that was not fun in the slightest. In contrast to this mess, the lieutenant of this campaign, the Fox, was rather easy. On to Killer 66. Oh boy. This gang actually has rather good missions leading up to the penultimate mission. I will be honest here. I did not beat this campaign. I will not beat this campaign. I do not consider myself a completionist, and I am sorry if you expected me to play through this entire ordeal. But I just can't. The penultimate mission is bullshit. Not only does it have a third-person shooter section, not only does it have a frustrating helicopter segment on top, it even sprinkles in an impossible-feeling third section, a race in which you have to optimize your run to the point where you absolutely do not have room for mistakes. At this point, the game was not fun for me anymore. So I just gave up. I killed Sudeku Arakawa, the lieutenant of Killer 66, at least. So this was Pursuit Force. An incredibly violent game for kids just because it does not display any blood. I still enjoyed the game quite a lot, but the final levels reach such a bullshit grade of difficulty where I do not see the point anymore in playing them. Despite me refusing to play the penultimate mission, nor being able to confront the final gang leader, Monster Toshima, I gotta say that I still love the gameplay at hand here. Pursuit Force is an incredibly unique experience, which I haven't seen pulled off anywhere else. Most shortcomings arise from the hardware the game runs on, and from the way difficulty was handled in the later missions. Despite these flaws, Pursuit Force is an incredibly good PlayStation Portable experience, which features great graphics for the system, hilarious enemies, and satisfying gameplay. Perfect for casual gaming sessions. Sadly, we might not see a Pursuit Force in the current or next generation of games. But I am happy that my expectations for a game I played 10 years ago were all met yet again.